international law. Global warming. The carbon con. This is a cracker. I talked earlier about this network, and one of that network is called the Club of Rome, set up in 1968. People like Henry Kissinger, by the way, Henry Kissinger, massively part of this over the decades, is involved in all of them. And he's involved in the Club of Rome, and he connects into the Rockefellers and all the people I've been talking about. And its job has been to manipulate the environmental movement. In 1991, its founder, the founder of the Club of Rome, Pecci, was quoted as saying in a Club of Rome document, as saying that when they were looking at how to, in effect, do this manipulation, he said, in searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine and the like would fit the bill. Here's another member of the Club of Rome. And that's why the official story of the reason for climate change, carbon emissions caused by humans, is as much a nonsense as the official story of 9/11. It is a problem, and the solution is international law, more and more taxation to save the planet, more and more imposition of the big brother state to save the planet. Now, I'm not saying that pollution's a good thing. I'm not saying that. But if we're going to get streetwise, we need to understand that it's not causing climate change. Well, I mean, having researched this for nearly 20 years, there's a little thing you start to learn about this guy, Al Gore. If he's involved, it's a scam. End of story, by the way. End of story, by the way. It's a scam. And of course, for his Inconvenient Truth documentary, let's just redesignate what documentary means on that criteria. He was given the Nobel Peace Prize and the Oscar. Why? Because this network controls that. They don't control every Oscar and all the rest of it, but if they need someone to get one, they can make sure they get one. Same with the Nobel Peace Prize. Kissinger won the Nobel Peace Prize. Bloody war criminal.
We'll be giving it to Blair next.
Yeah, Blair. So, what we've got as a result of all this manipulation, Al Gore, is, you know if it's a scam as well, because Madonna's on the stage singing about it, right? This is the Global Warming Survival Handbook, going with the Live Earth concerts, orchestrated by Al Gore. David de Rothschild wrote that. Very good. I'm sure they care about the planet, as they're lending us money that doesn't exist and trawling the wealth as a result of us not paying it. Now, there's a thing they say about computers. Crap in, crap out, right? If you put garbage into a computer, you get garbage out. That's how the computer models came up with global warming. International law is where it's leading, and this is the cause of global warming. Stands back in amazement. You mean the sun has an effect on Earth temperature? Are you kidding? What happens is the sun goes in cycles. It generates what are called sunspots, which are massive explosions of energy powered out into the solar system, which comes to the Earth eventually as solar radiation. Some of these explosions, called sunspots, are as big as the Earth and even as big as Jupiter. When it is exploding energy, the temperature goes up. This is what these sunspots are. You can see them here. I think they might have a bearing on temperature. I think so. This is the recent sunspot cycle coming round, all the rest of it. And of course there are cycles where you have a sunspot cycle going round at this level of temperature, and then you have a cycle going round at this level of temperature. So that as the cycles go round, it's hotter or cooler in the different cycles as we pass through what we call time. Now, other planets in the solar system have been warming up. I don't know whether you've seen them factories on Mars. Them bloody Martians and them 4x4s, it's bloody outrageous. Now, what is the common denominator of these other planets and the Earth? Can't work it out. Must be the sun. Now, this is the great one. The temperature's higher than it's ever been since records began. When did they begin? 1862? That's 5 minutes ago in weather cycles. What are you talking about? Back about 800 years ago, they had the medieval warm period. This is mainstream science. This is not me coming up with alternative stuff. The medieval warm period, the temperature was higher than it is now. Okay? What caused the temperature to be higher in the medieval warm period than it is now? Could it have been turbocharged handcarts? What do you reckon? Could be. Flatulent horses, maybe. I can just see a medieval weather forecaster arriving in the village. Dobbin's got the wind, I think we're in for hot summer. And I'm mad? After the medieval warm period, and of course if they took back the temperatures to then global warming looks very different now. But what they do is they take it back to a period called the Little Ice Age, when the temperature dropped to the point where the Thames froze over, and they used to have ice fairs on the Thames. You can still see depictions of it in Christmas cards and stuff. It just so happens that during the medieval warm period there was a period of increased solar radiation, and during the Little Ice Age there was a decrease in solar radiation. So if you follow the red, which is the Earth temperature, and the green is sunspot activity, I think there might be some connection there myself. Let's come forward. Again, the green is sunspot activity, the red is Earth temperature. Up to 1940 it was rising as we came out of the Little Ice Age. After the war, this period included, when there was a massive increase in industrialization and therefore carbon emissions, temperatures fell from 1940 to 1975 to such an extent that the BBC were running documentaries about the dangers of the coming ice age. From 75 it started to climb as sunspot activity climbed. This is a scientist, I saw his presentation a few weeks ago, called Peter Taylor. Now this man is the oil companies are paying him scientist. He's a former advisor on pollution and energy policy to national governments, the EU and the UN, and he was a lead advocate for Greenpeace. He was the man who broke the story through a Yorkshire television documentary years ago, when Yorkshire television did some really good documentaries, about the cancer clusters around what was called Windscale, now Sellafield, and the connection between the two. This is what Peter Taylor, an Greenpeace advocate at one time, says about global warming. Behind the scenes there is major disagreement among scientists. I know that. People at the cutting edge of their discipline are saying it's a nonsense, it doesn't stand up. They don't get the platform that the song sheet scientists get. Parallel to carbon dioxide rising, the solar field has increased by over 200% since 1900, and this is not factored into computer models. Global temperature is not rising as predicted. In fact, it fell by a whopping 0.6 degrees over the last 12 months, as much as it had gained in the previous 50 years. Many of the apparently random fluctuations of past temperature, like when Vikings grew crops in Greenland, correlate to variations of the solar electric field. Between 1983 and 2001, cloud cover, according to International Satellite Cloud Climatology Project, fell by 4% more than enough to heat oceans and account for global warming. A spate of recent science shows that temperature oscillations are timed by solar cycles, that the jet stream is affected by the solar wind, and that past high and low points in the solar cycle correlate with past temperature swings. Temperature's been falling recently. So much so that this was a headline in the Daily Mail. recently. Global warming could stop naturally for 10 years, say scientists. And you know what they said? Oh, we've still got to justify global warming. It said in the same piece, they said, oh, but imagine how hot it's going to be when it starts again. All right, okay. International law, that's what it's about. I'm coming to an end now, but let's look at why this is possible. Because we act like bloody sheep. We take in what people tell us and we believe it without question. And therefore, we are programmed to react as we choose to react, as they want us to react. A wonderful quote from Oscar Wilde. Most people are other people. Their thoughts are someone else's opinions, their lives are mimicry, their passions are quotation. In short, we are a world of repeaters, where people just repeat what someone else has said as if it's the truth without even checking it out. And no one should accept what I say here today without checking it out themselves.